Good evening everyone, and welcome to an extremely wet and pouring winter's day for round 5 of 2022 Porsche Supercup, proudly sponsored by Alwin, coming to you for round 5 from Red Bull Ring in Spielberg in Austria. As I said before, it is an extremely wet round. The practice has been torrential rain. It looks like qualifying might be a little bit better, with the race starting off wet and possibly drying throughout the race. So we're likely to see our first pit stops in the series. So the drivers are struggling at the moment to get to grips with the weather conditions, having to put on a set of full wet weather tyres for this. So this is of course round 5. I am the commentator Dennis Mitchell. Sean Woodgate will be joining us shortly. He's not here yet, unfortunately, because of the Formula 1 tonight. Last minute I realized we were going to clash, so I've moved our times forward by 30 minutes. This has of course thrown Sean off. I wasn't able to notify him on time. But we are live and we should hopefully be wrapped up before the Formula 1 finishes, so thus the drivers and viewers can then still watch the Formula 1. So of course we are round 5, which means we are at the Red Bull Ring. So next week we'll be at Suzuka in Japan. The following week we'll be at Marina, which will be our first day-night cycle, so the drivers will start in the day and finish at night, which will be quite spectacular. And then we'll finalize the series at Zandvoort, which is a fantastic circuit which Sean is also very familiar with, having commentated there before. And then after this series we will then have a British touring car series. You might have about a week break in between, depending on how things are going. So we'll probably have a fun event in the week between, and then we will go into a full British round. We will try and simulate the British series as best we can. It will be a dual race event, as the real British touring cars have 3 races per event, so we will have 2 races per event with reverse grids. We will have 8 rounds. Unfortunately, one of the rounds we won't be legitimate because of the track that we have not being good enough, so we're going to go with the track that is used for other British championships, namely Assen. So that will be the round that replaces Snetterton, because we don't have a very good Snetterton. Alright, so back to our championship here at the moment. Current drivers championship after round 4. Jason Underwood, 412 points ahead of Jean-Ray Latour on 384. Randre Dupinard, 378. Chris Collison, 376. Unfortunately, Chris won't be able to make it tonight. And I've just been notified that Sean should be in commentary in about 15 minutes. Donny Stander currently sitting in 5th place in the championship, 348 points. Bjorn Buchner in 237 points in 6th place. Basil van Rijn catching fast in 265 points. Andrew Hildebrand in 8th. The Team Gunston teammates to Bjorn Buchner, 265 points. Morrison Bake, 263 points. René Toy, 166. Gilly Silva, 164. Hannes Besson, 160. Harvey Gross, 160. Also Harvey unfortunately won't be able to make it tonight. Wilro Dupinard, 99. And Andrew Hollow, my new driver, also 99. And I apologize, I did misspell Andrew's surname with a U in the overlays, so apologies for that, and also did that at the last round's podium, so I will rectify that as soon as possible. Of course, we also have our team championship. So, Team Harder Racing on 788 points, closely followed by PZN Panel Beaters on 762. This could be anyone's championship for the team. Team Gunston in 3rd place with 538. GDR Racing, solid 4th place with 508 points. Deltic Racing, 263. Unfortunately, that's Marius driving alone in the team. Some Experience SA, also a lone driver, 164. South African Oval League, 160, also a lone driver. Sim Racers Room, also a lone driver of 93. And Alwin Racing, a lone driver at the moment of 79 points. At some point we'll hopefully have Rian back, so looking forward to having Rian come back, as well as having Hilke join, and they should get a few more points for their team championship. So let's have a quick look at the track. For those of you that aren't too familiar with the track, of course it is the Red Bull Ring, the Spielberg full Grand Prix circuit. So I have got the overlay directly from the Grand Prix website, the Formula 1 website. So basically it's a lot of straights and a lot of sharp corners relying on good exit speeds. So for example, let's go look at turn 1. Turn 1, Castrol Edge. It's a 90-degree right You got to get your corner perfect, get on the apex, spot on and get on the throttle as early as you can, because then you got a long straight. It ends sector 1 and starts the beginning of sector 2. And that'll go into Ramos corner. Now Ramos corner is more than 90 degrees. That corner is also extremely important to get on the throttle as quick as you can out there, because once again you're heading down a long straight. That'll take you all the way down to the third corner. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right. Some of my German pronunciation isn't so great these days. Schlossholt. That is turn 3. That one relies on a lot more apex speed as you exit. You get on the throttle nicely, run wide, use the maximum width of the track. After that, you head down to Roche. Now this is one of the first corners in my opinion where you rely more on apex speed and corner speed rather than exit speed. And it's the same again for turn 5. Once again, Worth curve. Corner speed, carrying the apex speed is very crucial. You've got to be careful because now you have turn 6, which is a very short corner that doesn't even have a name at the moment. It's more like a kink. And if you come out of turn 5 and you get on the curb too much in 6 there, you can lose the car, especially in these conditions. And once again, that leads into a nice straight. That straight will take you down to turn 7. This is Rindt. Rindt is a very difficult corner. It's very tight, much tighter than the drivers will anticipate. And as they turn in, if the car gets slightly loose in the wet, you're going to run wide and you're going to go off track. And of course, track limits could be an issue as well. And that of course leads us into the final turn, Red Bull Mobile. Well, this corner is synonymous with MotoGP and passes happening on the last lap there, notably with Marc Marquez and Andre Dovizioso. It happens as well in car driving, unfortunately not as often, but races are won on the final corner of the final lap. So that is a bit of a introduction to the Red Bull Ring. So we're going to shortly head over to qualifying. So while we are waiting for qualifying to start, just to remind you that this is round 5 from the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. I am your host Dennis Mitchell. Sean Woodgate will be here shortly. And we are at the Red Bull Ring for round 5 of our 8-round championship. The 4.3 kilometer circuit, or 2.6 miles. Not too long of a circuit, but definitely a very fast circuit, lots of straights. So qualifying is 15 minutes. And of course the series is the Alwin Porsche Supercup 2022 series. So let's see if we can head into some live footage at the moment. Let's get rid of that. Right, the drivers are now in qualifying and they're heading up, waiting for the lights to go out. This is the pit lights. They have to wait for them to turn green. If they don't, they will get penalties. So while we're waiting for that, just a reminder that this is round 5, which will be followed by Suzuka, Marina and Zandvoort. Right, so as we're waiting for all the drivers to get going, let us get our information up. Oh, it looks like the practice session has just ended, so perhaps it hasn't quite started yet. I'm a little bit confused by this, to be honest. It's showing that the practice has finished. Now it is officially qualifying, right. So now I can say it is a very wet qualifying. So welcome to a very wet Red Bull Ring. The drivers are now going to be heading out, trying to just survive for now. I guess the track will start to dry as the session progresses. So for the driver's sake, I hope it gets a bit better. I know in the race it definitely won't be quite as treacherous. As we see there, Basil van Rijn just getting on the throttle out of the pits and into the wall. That's definitely not the way you want to be starting. We see a replay of him doing that again. Unfortunately, some of our drivers not making it tonight due to hardware issues and other issues. Yet again, another one heading off. I believe this is Jason Underwood, our championship leader. Unfortunately, Chris won't be joining us tonight, or most likely won't be joining us tonight, because it is Father's Day for most of us, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Hopefully it's been a great day with your children. And for the children that have spent the day with their father, hopefully you've also had a good Father's Day, spoiling the fathers. Chris is unfortunately, or fortunately, enjoying some time with his family at the moment. Now we see, I believe that's Andre Dupinor. Yes, it is, number 9. We're losing it there. I sometimes wonder if between sessions the drivers forget to change their brake bias. That could be a mistake that catches the drivers out very, very quickly. Forget to change the brake bias, and by default it's set very far back in these cars. So when you hit the brakes, the rear end just comes around in these conditions. That's just absolutely treacherous. And you see Andrew Holland on the back of, I'm not sure who that was. Alright, so now we're seeing Jason Underwood getting it real sideways there. Coming down the straights, going as much speed as you can. Extremely difficult to get on the power nice and early in these conditions. Fighting the car moving around. You've got to be careful with the wrench. Bit of puddle and aquaplane as well. That is something that the simulator does simulate. So just over 12 minutes left of qualifying. So Marius and Beck getting on the straight. Oh, losing it in the final corner. Looks like he's going to slide into the pit lane almost. He's just going to miss the pit lane. Into the barrier. It's probably the worst place to lose it, because now that's your next lap ruined as well. The car looks like it's barely unscared, so you might be able to spin it around and get going again. Alright, we have Sean. Sean has joined us. I'm sure I'll unmute his mic in a moment. Welcome, Sean. If you can hear us, hopefully you'll let us know as soon as you can. Right, I realize we do not have certain information. I'm driving a little bit blind without the boxes showing, so let's get our information up so that we can actually see who we are watching. Alright, so Andrew Holland heading for the fastest lap of the session. Crosses the line, and will it be a 1:41.271? It is indeed pole position, and that is shortly beaten. Is that Jean-Ray Dutoy? 1:41.144. That was very quick. Now we see Jason Underwood on a flyer at the moment. 7/10 up in the first sector. The track looks like it is starting to dry a little bit. The rain seems to have eased off slightly. So we can... Jason Underwood really fighting the slides there, keeping it off paint. Can of course cut that final corner on the inside there and get away with it. And where does this put Jason? I imagine pole position. It is indeed provisional pole of 1:31.1. 2 seconds a lap faster than the next best driver at the moment. So Jason just upping the ante at the moment. So currently Jason Underwood from, I believe it's Jean-Ray Dutoy in second. It is indeed, as we're watching him at the moment. Andre Holderbank in third. Andrew Holland in fourth. Marius van Wyk in fifth. Peter Geldenhuis in sixth. Dani Stander seventh. René Dutoy in eighth. Basil van Rijn ninth. Jean-Ray Dubinar in 10th. And Bjorn Buchner in 11th. Briefly had a yellow sector there. I'm not sure which sector it was. And once again, a sector 2 yellow, and briefly yellow and gone straight away. And we see Jason now again about to improve, and in the meantime, Andrew Holland has gone divisional pole on 1:39.007. So everything's happening at the moment. Jason is a quarter of a second up in sector 1. If you can follow through with this, you'll definitely improve. We see all the lap times improving now. Andre Duppenau currently second place. Andre Hildebrand 4th place. Bjorn Buchner now 5th place. Donny Stunden now 7th place. So all the lap times slowly improving now as the track is obviously gripping up. Rain has slightly eased. And not by much though. This is going to be an incredible lap. Will this be a 37? It is indeed a 37.539. The time's constantly improving as the track is ramping up. This is one of those sessions where the drivers are going to have to stay out track the whole session and just keep going at it. Just as was the qualifying for Formula 1 last night, for those that watched it. Also a wet track. Drivers had to stay out. The drivers that were on the lap just in time before crossing the line definitely got the advantage. Once again a brief yellow there. Andrew Holland 1.5 tenths down in the first sector, but 3 tenths up in the middle sector. This should be a low 37. What's it going to be? It is indeed a 37.112. So the two teammates exchanging times with the others hot on the heels. And at the moment we're waiting for the others to respond. Sean, if you can hear me, your microphone is still muted. Now Jason Underwood, 3.5 tenths up. Sector 1 time really quick at the moment, and again 3.5 tenths up in the middle sector. This should be a mid 37. Let's see what he comes across the line to finish it with. Andre Hildebrand in third, a second down. Andre Duppenau in fourth. Looks like we might even have a drying line starting to show on the track. It does indeed look like it's drying. So 6 tenths between Jason Underwood and Andrew Holland at the moment. Jason on a 136.434 at the moment. So Andrew Holland 6 tenths down, Andrew Hildebrand 1.6 down, but the times are improving fast. Donny Stunden currently in 5th place from Bjorn Buchner, Monet du Toit. Well, I think that's Monet, no, that I believe is Jean du Toit, who has now jumped up to 3rd place. We see Andre Hildebrand now in 4th place coming around. Going to turn 6 there. And very smooth on the curb, making sure you don't get the car to sideways on the curb. Jason Underwood, by the looks of things, is now right up behind Peter Geldenhuys. Peter Geldenhuys taken to the escape road, not sure what happened there. Jason on another hot lap, 3 tenths up again. Was he perhaps held up by Peter Geldenhuys there? It looks like Peter veered off the track just in time, but he has indeed lost a few tenths. He should still be up by about a tenth at the moment, so he might still improve. Getting just the right amount of curb. So the track is indeed drying pretty quickly. These tyres must be really dispersing a lot of water. So 36 dead. Sorry, 36.2. I thought it was a 36 dead. 36.208. So Jean-Andre du Toit on for a good lap as well. 4 tenths down in the first sector, but fastest middle sector overall. How will he end the lap? Can he end the lap with the purple? If he can end the lap with the purple, he's likely to go 2nd place. Actually, he's still going to go 2nd place. And does indeed go 2nd place. 7 tenths down there. He didn't have a very good final sector, but still managing to go P2. Andre Hildebrand on the personal best. Let's see if he can come through with a good lap as well. Personal best in the middle sector also. So Andre fighting for 2nd place at the moment. where Andre comes through. See if he can execute the final sector. That looked perfectly smooth there. Right on the edge of adhesion. What lap time does he cross the line with? I'm not sure why it didn't improve, unless I'm missing something there. It's showing still 1.2 seconds down. Right. I was expecting, looking at the top of the times, expecting him to pop up, and he just didn't do that. Razor for Main looking like he's been struggling to get a good lap in, but currently on a good lap. 2/10 down in the first sector. We have a yellow in sector 1 at the moment. So everything's happening with 3.5 minutes to go. Andrew Holland is up by 2/10 in sector 1. So the time's tumbling fast now as the track is drying. Will anyone be brave enough to jump onto slicks at any point soon? And if so, will it gain any advantage? I think if they were to do it, they need to do it now so they can at least get an outlap and a bit of heat in the tyres. Yellow in sector 1 once again. So Andrew on for a really good lap at the moment. This should be a low 35. Nice and aggressive in the final sector, using just the right amount of curb. And yellow middle sector again. So Andrew does indeed take a 1:35.316 to take provisional pole position. Andre Hildebrand once again on for a good lap. Can he come through and improve? Jason Underwood also.
Good evening, Dennis. With another 3 minutes to go, I see there's a yellow in section 1. Sean, can you hear me clearly?
Good evening, Sean. Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us clearly? Good evening, Sean.
Hi there. See, you've got a nice wet Red Bull ring with, I think, about 2.5 minutes to go. So certainly the drivers are going to be put it on their fingertips tonight.
Yes, extremely wet, but it does look like it's drying. There's a dry line at the moment forming, and the times are tumbling fast.
Yeah, I see from when I arrived here. Apologies for being a little bit late. I didn't get the early warning, but I think it was Underwood that for a while back was still in the lead, and he's dropped down. Holland number 54 that now takes the lead, almost 0.9 of a second in qualifying quicker.
And as you say, that Jason has just popped one in the lead again.
Okay, so it's a nice battle going on. Or you mentioned the Formula 1 qualifying. It was, I think the guys must have been very disappointed last night to put in purples all the way, and then along comes Verstappen and just does it them all over again.
Yes. I'm pretty sure some of them were not expecting that. Oh, yeah. Jean-Louis Dutoit losing it in turn 1 there.
Oh, that's a pity. I'm just see he's in 4th position, but it looks as though the Underwood and Holland are in a league of their own, because the rest of the field is fairly tightly bunched. But the 1st and 2nd place, Underwood and Holland, they seem to have pace that everybody else still has to discover.
Yes, it certainly looks like every time they come across the line, there's a big chunk of time in improving there. So I think the other drivers are kind of just like a lap behind, because their times are improving, just not as quick.
Yeah, certainly an interesting circuit, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Clockwise circuit, not very long, 4.3 kilometers. To the old hands, that's 2.68 miles. But some of these, like the one that we see at the Pirelli signage, is rated as a corner. Well, there's actually plenty of Pirelli signage all over the place. But some of them are rated as corners, but are just very high-speed sweeps.
Yes.
So, of sharp corners and sweeps once again.
So Andrew Holland now coming across the finish, or coming across the start at the moment to finish his final lap. Let's see if he improves. And he does not.
Oh, nice spin there for all his efforts.
Alright, I think that is most of our drivers finished. It looks like only 3 drivers still on circuit. That is... Sorry, 4 drivers. One of them being Jason Underwood, who is currently up in Sector 1 by just over 3/10. Let's see if he can come through at the middle sector time as well. So a really nice battle between the teammates at the moment.
A quarter of a second between the two of them.
Andrew unfortunately throwing away his final lap. Dhani Stander just in the meantime has popped it up into 4th place. Oh, Jason getting a real drift on there into the second last turn. Let's see what his final time is. Can he dip into the 33s? He does indeed, a 33.896. So I believe that is the last driver to cross the line for qualifying.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm going to just jump to an ad break for now, and when we come back we will be starting a 30-minute race, so we'll be back with everyone shortly. Alright, welcome back everybody. So this is of course round 5 of the 2022 Porsche Supercup, proudly brought to you by Alwin Automotive Glass. I'm your host Dennis Mitchell. I'm joined tonight by Sean Woodgate once again. Sean, good evening.
Good evening to you, Dennis, and certainly very different racing conditions to what we saw last week. If you look out at the circuit now, very misty, but as you said when we were talking between qualifying and race, the conditions seem to be improving, and there they seem to be away now.
Alright, so while we're heading out, let's have a look at our starting order. See if we can get that up for everyone to have a look at. So of course, in pole position we have, if I could show, which for some reason it doesn't want to show. Try that again. Apologies for the technical hiccups here. For some reason we're not getting what we should be getting. Let's just try one other thing. See if this will come up. That comes up. Let's try this again. Right, let's do this again. So in pole position we have Jason Underwood. In 2nd place Andrew Holland. In 3rd place Jean-Louis Dutoy. In 4th place Dhani Stander.
The names that we expect to be, although the top two seem to be having a nice battle right till the end when the flag dropped, and it was, I think, at the end of the qualifying, it was a quarter of a second or so that split the two of them, and they are teammates. So it's going to be an interesting race, and let's see if there are just within the team to keep them apart.
Yes. Alright, let's get our timing up now, then we know who's who.
Conditions, as we said, appear to be developing into a dry racing line. Although I think if you are slightly off that dry line, depending on what tyres they put on, it is going to be very, very soapy indeed. And I don't think that's you want to be. Looks like we have 11 competitors in this race that join us for the Red Bull Ring Spielberg circuit, 4.318 kilometers, that's 2.683 miles, of 10 corners. Fast sweeps, but nonetheless mentioned as corners or rated as corners in the track layout.
And just in the YouTube comments, we have Lynn Sevenster saying hello. So hello Lynn, good to have you back again, and shouting out for Jason and Andrew, as well as having Rian van der Vestes and Rian saying how's it to us. How's it, Rian? Right, the drivers now lining up on the grid. Let's get our driver tower up so that we can know who's where at what time. And they're away.
Right, and from what it looks like in front of me, if it's not the racing line you're on, then certainly on as they come through turn one, as we've already got one running way off the circuit. It's a very narrow piece of the road that is actually race-worthy in the tyre setup that they have at the moment. Just the first corner is Niki Lauda. There was, I think, a bit of controversy because I think turn 7 was Niki Lauda many moons ago, but he was with Mercedes-Benz at the time, and then the owner of Red Bull decided to take his name off the corner, but subsequently to his passing, the first corner is back at, in German, the Niki Lauda Kurve. So interesting that they put that at turn 1, which is about a 90-degree right-hand bend.
It's interesting you bring up the name of the corners because I did a basic track walk in the build-up, and turn 1 I didn't refer to as Niki Lauda, I had a different name for it, but I got the information of the official Formula 1 website, so perhaps that's not up to date and hasn't reflected the changes yet.
I could be wrong as well, but what I got was Niki Lauda. It used to be, I think, Castrol. Maybe
yes,
that's
what I've called it, yes.
Yeah, and also there seems to be a bit of misconception as to 4 and 6, which one of them is actually Rauch. What I found is turn 4 is now Schlossgold, which is Castle of Gold out of German, and this is now Rauch.
Yeah, that's another thing. Some of the corners on some of the track maps, they use those kinks as corners like the Americans do, and others they don't. So the one I ended up with was a combination of the two, because the Formula 1 just had numbers and not the correct names, and then I got one of the names and didn't have the right, so I just kind of just mixed and matched.
Yeah, and the one that I couldn't, well, initially in my initial search didn't have a name at all, and Red Bull being the owners of the circuit.
Making a movie, I believe that's Basil van Rijn, side by side down the straight.
Yeah, the straight is actually over the finish line is the start of the time sector number 1, and sector 1 finishes just before turn 3, which I found initially as MSAG, but then subsequently corrected as Remus. So that's turn 3. Just before turn 3 is the end of sector 1, and sector 2 runs all the way to just before turn 7, which is the Wurf curve.
Yes, which I believe is named after the product.
Yes. I think they just, if you're coming from Pretoria to Joburg, they're on the left-hand side.
Sorry, the button, it looks like, I believe it was Jean-Louis Victoria might have spun a little longer at Dippenaar. The drivers behind all slowing down there to avoid.
Or going into limp mode or something like that, but a very, very much bunched up, but they seem to have settled it now without anybody going into anybody else.
Yeah, and Jean-Louis Victoria looking pretty close behind Andrew Holland at the moment.
They're very, very close together, and as we said before, this track is not very long, so it's over pretty quickly. And 243 coming there is, well, that's the number on the car, but it's probably 242 is Stander. Maybe I misread it. There's also a nice bunch in amongst them as they go over the finish line past the main grandstand now. Quite a nice long straight before they get into Niki Lauda curve.
A nice pack of cars there as well. About 6 of them together there.
Yeah. And then they head sort of in a little bit south of east direction to Schlossgold, which is almost a hairpin. If you combine turns 4 and 5, then it turns out to be a hairpin, but it's actually 2 separate corners. Much the way that the old West Bank used to be at Kyalami, it's actually a combination of corners that you have to be slow for the first one.
You can see there's a slightly drying line, although there is still a bit of rain falling. Definitely looks like there's a line that's drying.
Yeah, and the Porsches have quite nice wide tackies on them, so a nice power slide there. Is it too much? Yeah, it was too much, and it's into the gravel.
At least
and
he's
that's
held
going to
it.
cost. Yeah, well held actually. I thought he's going to lose that position, but it didn't turn out to be so. The track is forgiving, and we'll have to wait and see if it's going to dry enough for them actually to come into the pits to change tyres. Do you have any inside info on what compound they might have started the race?
They've all started on the wet tyre. There is no intermediate, so we have wet tyres and we have dry slicks, and that's it. There's only 2 options for tyres. So possibly towards the end of the race it might be drying enough. Oh, Monet Toy getting really close to the back end of, I believe that was Basil van Rijn there.
Yeah, and it also cost him his momentum, having to get onto the brakes and then to avoid hitting the car in front of him. But talking about the tyre choices, in this pitter-patter of rain, there's only, with the choices available, you can be on wets or wets, and I think that's the full limit of what's available to you for these racing conditions.
Looks like the leads are really close together, so I'm presuming Jason Underwood has made a mistake. He had a brief yellow, so possibly it was our leader, because the gap is now 1 second between Andrew and Jason, and we've got Yonder right behind him.
Yeah.
As we can see, on board now is Yonder in 3rd place.
Yeah, it's a second and then another second, but I think it's a lot closer. That was a little bit back, but very closely positioned, and as you know, in conditions like that, a second can be closed down very, very quickly. On the visuals, you have 1st, 2nd and 3rd running within sight of one another and close enough. If the car in front of you is going to make a mistake, then you're going to pounce for that position.
Very treacherous conditions at the moment. You can see the standing water everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good the drainage is, but if you say it is still raining, then certainly it will keep you. If you're off the racing line, it will be wet. Not the place to be going.
I believe the drainage is pretty decent at this track.
Yeah, I think they have enough rain to contend with the engineers that can build circuits to actually drain quite well.
In some of the camera shots, you can actually see the drains on the side of the track, sort of built into the curbs.
Yeah,
so they seem to be able to point that out.
Yeah. If they were to go off the circuit, it's not like we had last week where you actually come into the pit straight to get off the circuit. They get off the circuit here just after Rund corner, which is turn 9, which is actually before turn 10. They both of them are right-handers. So if you do decide to come off the circuit after turn 9, and then you actually take a bend as if you're on the inside of turn 10, then you follow the straight over the finish line and into the pits, and you join the pits after turn 1 is the point where you go back onto the track again after Niki Lauda. There's a spin.
We saw a bit of contact there with Andre Hildebrand tapping Peter around. He is at least waiting for Peter. And being gentlemanly enough to wait for a driver who's affected.
And give the position back. But that meant they'd lost 2 positions if I...
yes, it looks like Morris van Wyk said thank you very much. While you're waiting, I'll sneak past.
Yeah. So even right at the bottom of the field, things are turning out to be quite interesting. But look at the... If you look at some of the corners where you can standing water and you can see the rain, then it certainly is still coming down. It's as if it's going to dry out within half an hour.
Yeah, we'll see, but it certainly doesn't look like it's going to become a dry enough track as we see. I believe that's 3rd place. Jean de Toy, it's possibly... It is indeed.
Spin out of turn 10, I think that was.
Yes. And Yandere Duppenaar has said, thank you very much, I'll take third place.
Mistakes being made by all of them. Is tyre wear for the half hour, is that going to be an influence, or can they all go the full distance?
They should be able to go. Certainly slick tyres can manage the whole distance. Wet tyres, we've never done a wet race to know what the wear will be like, especially with the track drying. The wet tyres actually don't perform too bad on a dry track. I'm not too sure what the wear is like on a dry track, so that we will probably find out towards the end.
We might see if it does become a factor. Some of the guys actually going, if the tyres do get hot, the core temperature gets hot, they might actually, where it's possible, down the straights, go off the racing line to get the tyres cooled in the wet bits before they go back onto the racing line for the corner again.
This is where a lot of drivers don't particularly like rFactor, but rFactor can be very realistic in some scenarios, and this is definitely one of them. rFactor is the only simulator that has a physics-based tyre model, and one of the things it does simulate is full tyre wear and temperatures and that, so it will definitely affect the track. They've also got a real live track grip, so basically where the drivers are driving, it will dry up and it will grip up, but where they're not driving, there will be puddles, so they can use that like they do in the real world, drive offline into the puddles, cool the tyres down, and then go back onto the race line.
Yeah, interesting. Just a fraction over 20 minutes to go, and Underwood now in a comfortable lead from Holland. Sorry, Dennis.
2 second gap, sorry, just looking at the bit rate suddenly dropping very low there. So a 2 second gap at the moment.
And then another 10 seconds from Holland to Duppenaar. The two of them seem to be in the class in these conditions. Seems to be a nice elevation change when they go down the straight up to Niki Lauda curve turn 1, and then right where they go down. It's a long piece of track, turn 1 to turn 3, because there's a little bit of a sweep, which these guys I'm sure don't consider a corner, but that's longer than the actual pit straight. So I think a nice place where you could consider actually taking a wet line if you need to get your tyres cooled down.
Yes. So Andre right behind Marius and Vake there at the moment. It looked like he was going to get enough drive, but Marius managing to hang on to it. We see two drivers in the pits at the moment, Basil van Rijn and Peter Geldernees.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Toy also falling down the leaderboard. So that's going to be interesting. The pit stops. So Geldernees, De Toy and Van Rijn, I think, into the pits.
Alright, so that should be interesting to see what tyres did they change to first of all, and how will they perform now that they have fresh tyres.
Because it's only another 18 and a bit and a half plus minutes to go, so it's actually quite an early change. So if they are having wear, it's actually biting them a lot earlier than what I think we expected.
And then I wonder, are they going to be chancing to put slicks on at the moment, because it's still looking a little bit slick out there, and I guess if you go offline it's going to be really dangerous in slicks. As you see Marius and Vake getting a big slide on there.
Yeah, using simulated, but the painted bits are even the factors you mentioned. It's a totally different surface. It's very, very smooth, and there are not many drivers there, so it's going to stay wet. So it's interesting to see if they do venture off onto the painted bits, whether they are going to. We saw one car up there. Whether
and Dupin are currently in the pits at the moment. So Andre Hildegard has worked his way from last place after his incidents, waiting for the other driver. He's now up to 7th place.
And he's only a second, or he must have Van Wyk right in front of him. So certainly worth fighting for.
Yes. So you can see the onboard of Andre's car. And the spray in his face.
So this is that long straight that I think I was mentioning. This thing is then turn 3, which is Remus. One taking a wide line on the outside, one taking a narrow, the dry line on the inside.
It looks like Marius has dropped it on the entry of the corner and squared the corner off. As you see, a new best lap for Andrew Hollimer, 1:37.680. Andrew is our current leader as well, so someone on the line, Jason, has fallen behind Andrew.
Yeah, it's just over 2 seconds. So quite a few cars have actually made the pit stop. Valney's now a lap down. So I'm not sure that he came out of the pits. And if he did come out of the pits, then he's a minute and a half behind, which, as we know, is more than a lap. These cars.
And of course, that's shaking up our standings quite a lot. We have Andrew Holland in first, Jason Underwood in second. Then we've got Dani Stander in third, Bjorn Buchner in fourth. Then Jean-Louis du Toit, then Andre Hildebrandt, then Maurice van Wijk. And then Morne du Toit, Jandre Duppenaar, Basil van Rijn and Peter Koldenitz. So I'm not sure, but I presume some of the drivers are going to chance going to the end. Someone like Dani Stander, he can chance it. He's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, and he's running well. He's 4 seconds ahead of Buchner at the moment. That's for third and fourth. He's a long way back. I think he knows he's not going to get up to Underwood for second, but certainly worth trying. And if Underwood and Holland were to come in for tyres, then certainly he's very well placed.
I just see a fastest lap for Jean-Louis du Toit. Now, I believe Jean-Louis du Toit is one of the drivers that has changed tyres.
And he's in fifth at the moment, so maybe it's been worthwhile. And there's a cluster of them. It's Buchner, du Toit, Hildebrandt, and a little bit further back from Wijk, that are running quite close together and have done the tyre change. So 15 and a bit minutes to go, off race distance. It's going to be interesting to see whether Holland and Underwood, I assume they will come in for tyres, but at what point they do make the decision to do so.
Yes. So Jason, of course, is now, like we mentioned, that lap time had been set. He's now gone and beaten that. So Jason currently has the fastest lap time of 1:36.678.
And he's halved the gap between himself and Holland, so it's going to be a heated battle there. They can see each other now coming down the main straight and into Niki Lauda at the top of it. But certainly all worth fighting for, drift and onto the paint. But it doesn't seem to bother them too much. The psychology of racing, if you can see the guy in front of you and you can see that you're gaining on him, it certainly does help and boost your driving ability. Sometimes you're actually quicker than your brain is quicker than what you think it is, and it's a motivation to actually catch up to the car ahead of you. And Underwood is certainly trying that right now.
My apologies, it wasn't Jean-Louis du Toit in 5th place, it's Morne du Toit in 5th place. So a brilliant 5th place for Morne du Toit. Jean-Louis is actually in 8th place.
Okay, so those are, from what I can see, is number 7, but you will see on your monitor that they are the two.
Yes, number 7 is Jean-Louis du Toit, number 7 is also Morne du Toit, but they are in different skins, I believe.
Well, there's one car going very, very wide.
Yes, that was Jason there.
So Jason Underwood. Yeah, and that'll mean where he was catching up, actually he's still catching up, he's now down to less than a second. So all the while reeling him in and making this very exciting. A brief yellow, I think it flashed up and down. There wasn't second, I think it was. I wonder whether they're going to take a chance with Thunder only 30 seconds or so behind them, whether they're going to take a chance and go the whole race distance on the tyres that they've got.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And also, if they do pit, I presume they're going to be pitting for dries. So that would also be quite risky. They don't know if the dry tyres are going to be ready yet, if the track's going to give them enough grip, or if they're actually going to be slower on them.
Oliver is venturing off the track quite a few times with these tyres that he's got on. Now, there's a question in that. Have the wets gone beyond their lifetime? And does he now have to switch? In the second question, there he does again. Now, that's further down. But the question is, do you go back to wets or do you go to slicks? Certainly off the racing line, it is very, very slow.
I think I would probably go for slicks because it looks like the dry line is dry enough. Like you said, the wet line is going to be very tricky, so making a pass might be very difficult. You see the other one side by side with Morne du Toit at the moment.
And the puddles that we used to see, they seem to have disappeared completely.
And there, Andre Hildebrandt going around the outside of Morne du Toit. So Morne du Toit is struggling for grip. Coming back at him, no, not able to do it.
Now, even though the line that he took is the longer line around the outside, you certainly get the slingshot effect and you exit the corner a lot quicker than the car that tries to outside.
And possibly that also helped his tires out. So maybe doing those wider lines, like they do in real life, that they try and stay off the actual dry line with the rubbers because there's less grip with the rubbers on the track.
Yeah, we saw one of the cars just go through there now, and you saw a lot of spray come up. So I think that was one of the incidents where the driver decided, let me cool these tires down. And you saw the spray, and it was on a straight bit of the track. But in the corners, they seem to all try and stay on the racing line that has dried out quite nicely.
So 10 minutes to go. We see Jason Underwood now hounding his new teammate Andrew Holland for the lead.
Yeah, it's down to 0.6 of a second. So less than that now. It's a car length of 3 from back bumper to front bumper that Underwood is behind Holland. Holland drifting very wide, as he so often does, out of that corner, then clips the curb and takes the racing line as they go through Red Bull Mobile, turn 10, and past the grandstand, approaching Niki Lauda curve, turn 1. Slipstream, it's too far back, he's not going to make it going into Niki Lauda.
Yeah, really close there. I'm sure Jason's enjoying this. He's had it pretty much all his own way throughout the season. Finally, having someone that he's got to chase down. Unfortunately, it's his teammate.
You've got to be wise about this. You can't just throw all caution to the wind. I think you've got to test the grip out before you actually go for the overtake, because it'll be on one of the corners more than likely. And then you've got to look at what line your opponent takes, what line Holland is taking through a specific corner, and maybe 4-5. That's a good combination to actually mount it, because it's a 2-part corner where the second part is actually quite fast. It turns into a sweep. So if you can get a good exit out of 4, then potentially turn 5 is the place to do it. Alternatively, you position the car correctly out of 5, because they're right-hander, and so that you're on the inside going into turn 6, which again is a sharp left-hander.
Another thing to consider is to take each other out now. They're likely to lose the lead in the team championship.
Yeah, brief yellow in sector 2, which is from round about turn 3 till just before turn 7. Yeah, I think discretion, the better part of valor there. They might decide just to hold these positions, unless Holland makes a gear change mistake or something in a straight portion where it's very simple for Underwood to get past him. But I don't think that risks going into any corners.
Oh, Jason being really sideways there. We saw the fastest lap now for Randre Duppinon as well. 135, I believe. 135.779.
And Dippinar's all the way down in 9th position, so it just goes to show you what new rubber can do. But then again, if you have the joy of 35 seconds plus ahead of your competitors, then maybe you just stick it out for another 9 minutes. Yeah, they're now neck and neck going down the hill.
So now I guess it comes down to they don't have the time to catch up, but what's the tyre wear going to be like towards the end?
Yeah, and as I said, making the decision where to pass is very important. I think he made his decision, but decided no, he's not actually on the part of the circuit where he can go around the outside, and he gave the position, well, not that he had first position, but he decided let's slot back into second position and finish the race there. Maybe he's going to give him another go in the next 8 minutes. We'll have to wait and see. But they are very close. Car length will fit between them if you know how to park. But that's how far they separated. 1 Porsche length between first and second place, Holland and Underwood.
2 small cars.
Yes.
Dippenar once again, the fastest lap at 35.494. So Dippinar's tyres have definitely hooked on. So whatever tyres he's gone for, they are working, but he's just a bit far back.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see whether he can catch. It's 18 seconds between himself and Van Wyk. So I'm not sure whether he's going fast enough. 7 minutes and 10 seconds to go, 20 seconds to go. But certainly first and second is really, really interesting. This is probably one of the best races that I've seen in my limited time with some experience SA. But what a great race to be watching. And so close, and no quarter given or asked. Certainly racing for what they're worth.
Yes, they're certainly going for it.
The track seems very dry now. I'm actually not concentrating, but actively looking for places where there are puddles, and I must be honest with you, I can't recall seeing any, which has got them in a bit of a predicament. Let's see how far Stunder's behind. Now, Stunder's 40 seconds behind them on. So with almost 7 minutes, or less than 7 minutes to go, Stunder's not going to catch them at 40 seconds worth in the remaining time.
And lap time wise, the leaders are still doing very similar lap times to the guys on new tyres. So we just see the fastest lap now for Jean-Louis Dutour, 34.9. Andrew Holland in the lead did a 35.7 on the previous lap, so they're not catching enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
But they do seem to be fighting a lot of tyre wear because the car seems to be a handful at the moment.
Yeah, I think they have the luxury that if we see now the gap between Holland and Underwood is 0.3 of a second or thereabouts, that the gap to third position is such that they can make a decision to say, let's just hold on.
It looks like Jason's finding it quite difficult to pass his teammate.
Yeah, with a track like this, and the condition, you're getting to the point as well, not only as to what condition the circuit is in, but what condition your tyres are in. Yes. And if you're going to push the tyres beyond their grip capability, then certainly it's not worth taking that risk to get a position, but lose it for both of you.
So Jason's trying everything. I'm sure Andrew's trying everything in his power to get his first win as well.
Yeah, I think Jason used too much curb there, and that more than likely cost him a bit of time in the attempt to pass. But certainly, I think that marker that they're coming up too soon.
That could be interesting. I believe that might be Basil from Rain because they have already left Peter Hollins.
He's done something off into the gravel earlier, and I think that was for position further down. Was that Stander and Buchner? Who runs in the bronze-coloured skins?
There's a yellow-coloured skin which is Peter Geldenes. I'm not sure about bronze though.
Or maybe it's just a brown, which on my monitor appears to be like a bronzy brown, but nonetheless, it's...
Look at the sun shining now. Whoa, Jason's spinning off there.
Oh, that's be a turn up for the books. But with 40 seconds, we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's the lead then gone.
I'm pretty sure that's the win handed to Andrew now.
Yeah. So Andrew getting away from Jason. And as you said, look at the nice blue sky. So the Austrian scenery, they can actually appreciate the Austrian forest. Actually didn't mention turn 4 once, and that's Schloss Gold. If you go and research that, why it's the Castle of Gold. But nonetheless, why the turn had the Castle of Gold. But very, very interesting.
And another driver that's made his way forward nicely, Andre Hildebrand, currently in 5th place. We remember he was down to 11th place, still waited for another driver. Did the courteous thing, yes. He still worked his way up to 5th place. So great race for Andre.
And he's only 8 seconds behind Buchner.
Yes, and Buchner is only like 4 seconds behind Stander.
Yeah, so that section, 3rd, 4th, 5th, very interesting. Maybe even Detroit still has a chance. I see that Detroit, although they separated by 10, 11 seconds, they've now found each other on the circuit.
Yes.
I must say, actually driving this circuit must be very, very interesting. Because, as I said last week, the riders actually enjoy an elevation change, and this one has quite a nice elevation change.
It's actually a really nice, it looks quite a simple track, but certainly if you look at, for example, turn 1, it's a very simple 90-degree bend, but you've got that steep hill up to turn 1, so that compresses the suspension out, and as you turn in, there's a curb on the inside. You want to try and use as much of it as possible. If you use too much, it unsettles the car, and with the track then leveling out, it throws you all sideways, and then you go wide and lose all the momentum down the straight.
We actually just saw a bit of dust being kicked up with the car going slightly offline, so that gives you an idea of how much conditions have changed. That previously the track was wet, they're now actually kicking up a bit of dust, which is definitely not spray, so the track is actually dry. Well, just off the track has dried, so they're kicking up a bit of dust now.
Yeah, you can see the sun's definitely out with the glare shining on the track and on the cars.
Yeah, Let's see what the gap is now. Yeah, with that spin, Underwood 8 seconds odd behind Holm, and another 40 seconds behind that is Stander in third position.
And in the YouTube comments, we have Rudy van der Westhuizen saying Team Redline, so a supporter there for Team Redline.
Right, and the car we're looking at, I think it's, yes, very similar to, and it's a Zandvoordt Aluminium Zuma, hear me say so, looking very similar to the Rothmans colors, and there's the dust I was talking about. I'm looking at the YouTube feed. Very similar to the Rothmans colors of old.
Yes. That I believe is Maurice van Wyk.
So
you see dust again to turn one.
Yes.
Andre Duckenau just getting the dust up there. He's right behind Maurice van Wyk now. And of course is the battle for 8th place. This will be their final lap, and side by side. And it looks like Maurice van Wyk hitting a bit of a wet patch there.
Either that or just a bit too hard on the brakes and locking them up, or a combination of the two,
Yes.
but certainly losing quite a bit of road.
And that's our timer up, sir, as the drivers now come across the line, and that will be the end.
Right, so interesting race it was until Jason spun it, and then I would say all the excitement disappeared, but certainly I think Andrew got a bit of breathing space, having had a Porsche behind him for more than half of this race. Then all of a sudden he had clear sky, both above and behind him, and certainly made his race a lot easier. There's the car that I refer to as the bronze-colored car, but it's more brown.
Alright, that is Bjorn Buchner, that is the Team Gunston colours.
Okay, so I wasn't too far off.
Yes, I think it just looks a little bit dirty, which is why it looks bronze.
Yes. But this is an interesting race as well, and considering that they're on their last lap, worth fighting for.
Yeah, so Andrew Holm should be... Oh,
he's lost the back. That takes... They got off very lightly if you consider that's turn 10.
And that's the leader he's collected there.
Would you believe it?
Right, so Andrew Holm does indeed come across the line and takes the checkered flag. Jason Underwood comes across the line and takes second place. And I believe that was then the two drivers in front. I'm not sure if they're still racing because they're in front of the leader.
That seems to be slowing right down.
That's definitely slowing down, yes. So let's see. Bjorn Buchner looks like... It looks like Bjorn Buchner has taken over third place. So I'm not sure if that happened after the checkered flag, or if Bjorn has stole third place from Donnie Stander.
It's going to be very interesting to see the final results once everybody crosses the finish line, so that we can get the lap scoring there. They come across, well, they approach the finish line now. Let's see if there has been a change for position.
I believe it is indeed Bjorn Buchner that takes third place.
From Stander. That's the one that I said. That's still certainly worth looking for on the last lap.
Yes. And the Detroit coming across the line in sixth place.
And then it's Booty.
Andre Duckenau coming across the line shortly as well. I'm not sure why
it's changed in half an hour.
Right, I'm going to just head off to an ad break shortly, because I think all the drivers have now finished, and for some reason the camera is therefore following the guy that had won the race, which is of course Andrew Holm. So I'm going to go to an ad break. We will go find our top 3 drivers and be back shortly with some interviews. All right, just waiting for YouTube to catch up here. And for some reason, it keeps losing its data. All right, it's catching up. So, welcome back, everybody. We, of course, are now joined for our interviews from round 5 from the Red Bull Ring. I am your commentator, Dennis Mitchell, joined by Sean Woodgate. So, an interesting race tonight, lots and lots of wet weather. So, for our interviews tonight, we have in first place, we have Andrew Holm. In second place, we have Jason Underwood. And in third place, Bjorn Buchner. So let's start with Andrew. Andrew, fantastic race tonight. You managed to put one over Jason finally. So finally, Jason has been beaten. Something we didn't think we'd be saying this season. So congratulations on your win. And tell us the race from your point of view.
Yeah, we don't race much in the wet, unfortunately, so it's a bit of a change. But I quite enjoyed the wet. It went quite well. It was a difficult start. I didn't get a good start, and somebody went down the left of me, but I managed to keep them there until after the sharp turn at the end of the second straight, whatever that is. And then it was following Jason. Jason made a mistake at the bottom of the hill where the Bosch curve used to be, I think. And I got ahead. And then he had a spin later in the race, which made it easy.
Yeah, so he kind of gave it to you, but at that point you looked like you were defending for all your worth, but he was struggling to get past. It looked like he was having lots of tyre wear as well. We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
So let's head off to Jason. Jason, let's start with your tyres. Did you suffer from tyre wear? Because you were behind Andrew. First of all, you were in the lead, then you went off at some point and he caught you, then you seemed to get past, and then at some point you were catching, but it looked like your car was going sideways pretty much everywhere until eventually you had your spin. So were you suffering from any form of tyre wear?
Yeah, well, obviously it started off on wets and stayed on wets right throughout, same as Andrew. And my right foot was a bit heavy tonight, so the rear tyres were going and going and going. I saw Andrew going in the wet parts of the track to cool that down. So strategy won by Andrew there. I was just maybe a bit too eager, but the better man won on the day. I made 2 mistakes, and you can't make mistakes when you're racing against a quick guy like Andrew. So fair play to him. He well deserved, and I will go and practice more for next round.
Okay, well done again. And then a surprise and fantastic third place, Bjorn. Absolutely fantastic to have you in third. I'm sure you're dying to go to Formula 1, so we'll make this brief, but an exciting moment for you. So well done. Give us the race from your point of view. It was last minute sort of pass that you managed to get into third place on Donnie Stunner. So Donnie Stunner looked like he had third place, and in the dying moments, you stole it from him.
Absolutely pot luck. Just stayed on the road. Everyone sort of either fell off or went for tyres. And I did touch Maurice van Wyk into, I think, turn 1, so I do apologize for that. I just stayed on. Kept my nose clean and caught Donnie eventually. He went a little bit wide into that fast left-hander, and I managed to get past. So, yeah, it was great. Very lucky. I'm not supposed to be here. So
this is one of the nice things about the weather being different is we get different results.
Absolutely.
And yourself and Donnie aren't usually fighting for the podium, so fantastic to see you guys up there and on merit, on pace. Your pace was genuinely great.
At turn top, you'd be dry, but a great in 30 minutes. What a change of conditions we saw.
It was a big question mark whether the tires were going to hold up. Obviously, the crew chief kept saying they're now moderate grain, then overheating, but they held up, so it was all good.
Yeah, and a great race for that third position, well deserved.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Thanks, gents.
Right, cheers, Bjorn. Bjorn, before you leave, let's do a quick shout out from the drivers. If we can start with Andrew first.
Just thanks, Dennis and the organisers for putting the event on, and for all the drivers for taking part. It's fun, so thanks.
Thank you. And Jason?
Well, congrats to Andrew for his first win. I'm sure it's first of many. Thanks to all the supporters. Chris Collison couldn't be here tonight, Father's Day dinners, but he was watching on his phone, so bless him, and thanks for the support to everybody, and thanks once again to yourself, Dennis, and Sean, and congrats to Bjorn for the podium.
Yep.
And then
Thanks,
Bjorn.
I guess just to Andre, bad luck. He definitely had the measure of me today in quali and in practice. It was just unfortunate to go off early on the race. And then, shout out to my kids for spoiling me today and allowing me to have a race. So
Good stuff.
All right,
then
cheers.
I'm going to call it quits tonight. So I'm sure a lot of the guys are dying to head to watch the Formula One race. I'm just going to get rid of the drivers, so they are no longer in the commentary booth. And then myself and Sean can do the final goodbyes for tonight. And we'll start off by saying that was round 5 from the Red Bull Ring. Seems like I'm having a bit of internet issues, so apologies if the connection keeps dropping. Also, round 6 will be next round will be from Suzuka. So that'll be the full Suzuka circuit. That should be quite challenging for the drivers. Round 7 will be from Marina. As I've mentioned, it'll be our first day-night race. And then the final round will be round 8 from Zandvoort.
Zandvoort, I wouldn't say is a home circuit to me, but having done live commentary at Zandvoort for the historic Grand Prix twice, it's changed layout since I've been there 2016, I think it was. They changed it for Formula One, but still much of it is known to me. And it's going to be interesting for me to see what the graphics look like, because I've actually gone around that circuit in pouring rain. I thought there's no way they can have a race day tomorrow. And Zandvoort also being amongst the dunes, it drains very quickly, but certainly going to be very, very interesting. We've just done Red Bull Ring, Suzuka, another place where the weather is fickle and is changeable at short notice. So that's going to be quite interesting as well. I don't know Marina or Marina at all, so I'll have to go and look it up and find a track layout, but it's going to be interesting. And Dennis, I must say, in 1, 2, 3 events that we've done, I was a bit stuttering in the first one. The last one, we were sort of getting together, but I think tonight we really gelled well together. Thank you very much.
Tonight was really good. It just gets better and better.
Yeah. So you're even becoming a great commentator. For somebody that was downgrading yourself as a commentator, you actually are just coming into it very, very naturally. I don't think you have to step back for anybody.
Well, I think having yourself alongside me is definitely making it a bit easier. On my own, it's definitely not as easy, but having someone like yourself alongside me, I'm learning from the best.
Thanks. Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yes. So perhaps on that note, we can call it quits. We don't want to waffle on too long like the golf commentators do about the birds. And everyone's probably dying to go watch the Formula One. So
is the time at 8 or at 10?
I believe it's at 8, so they're probably all lining up on the grid.
Okay, great stuff. We'll speak next week.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Sean, for tonight. And we will catch all of you drivers next week for Suzuka. So good evening, everyone.
Good night, everybody.